Hello everyone, it's Shannon here for Honeybee Stamps. In today's video, we are going to create this fall bouquet featuring some lovely layers dies as well as a basket die. We'll also incorporate some ink blending and some Copic markers to add depth to our images. We're going to start with the lovely layers autumn bouquet. I'm going to go ahead and die cut these out of some Neenah Solar white cardstock. We're just going to die cut them out of white and then ink blend them to add our color. This is a great way to add a lot of depth, and you can really control your colors this way as well. I'm starting with these two die cuts here, and I'm going to ink blend them first with Evergreen Bow Distress ink. Once I kind of finish lightly blending them with this green, I'm going to move on to a darker green, which is Rustic Wilderness, and we're going to darken up kind of the stem and the base of the leaf where the leaves meet the stems. I'm just using my mini ink blender tools here, kind of angling it so only a small portion of the foam comes in contact. That's how I don't completely cover them with that Rustic Wilderness. Now moving on to, I guess these are wheat. I'm ink blending them with Antique Linen and just kind of create a little gradation over them as well. Now moving on to this stem here. This is actually for some cotton. I first started ink blending it with Rustic Hinge, and then I'm going to move on to Vintage Photo to kind of add some darker brown to some areas of this stem to add a little bit more interest and texture. Now we're going to move on to actually adhering our little cotton balls to our stem, and I'm just following the guides that are on the website to kind of figure out where these layers go on this stem. It's pretty easy to put them together, and you just kind of match up the little I guess they're kind of like leaves that surround the cotton ball. There's actually impressions in the cotton puff that kind of you can line it up to. Now we're going to move on to this sprig of flowers. I'm going to ink blend it first with peeled paint. Again, kind of creating a little gradation where it's darker at the stem, the base of the stem, and lighten as I get towards the flowers. And then for the flowers, we're going to ink blend them first with spiced marmalade, and then we'll move on to a little bit of crackling campfire, kind of a dark orange red, and just ink blend the base of these flowers with that darker color, and that's going to create a really pretty gradation over these flowers so they pop a little bit more. Now I will simply glue them to the base, and then we'll have this beautiful pop of color for our autumn bouquet. With that sprig done, we're going to move on to another wildflower sprig. We're going to first ink blend the stem in Forest Moss, which really kind of like a dark, almost brown kind of green. I really like to use different greens in my bouquets. I just think it makes a much more interesting and more realistic arrangement. Now for the flowers, I'm going to ink blend them in Fossilized Amber. Again, I'll try to create a little gradation. Some of these pieces are really small, so I'm not really worrying about those. But on the bigger pieces, I'll try to create a little gradation by, again, angling my foam blending tool so only a portion of the tool comes in contact with, or the foam comes in contact with the die cut to get a little gradation on that. Now I'm just going to adhere all those flower layers to that stem, and that will complete that sprig as well. Now we're ready to move on to the basket. I have this older die here. It's the Rattan basket die. It's a 2-layer die. I really love it. I think it's a great die to use with your flowers. I'm going to go ahead and ink blend the top layer first with brushed corduroy, and I am going to create a little gradation on this as well, so it's a little bit darker at the bottom and lighter towards the top of the basket. And then for the back layer, I'm going to ink blend that upper kind of third, I guess, with some really heavy-handed with brushed corduroy. And then for the rest of the basket on that base layer, I'm going to ink blend in Ground Espresso. Make it really dark so we have lots of contrast that you will see through those openings in that top layer. Now we're going to enhance that woven texture with a Copic marker. I'm just going to go along the sides of those kind of woven strands in the basket and just really try to enhance that these are layering and going under and over each other. And I just think that really does kind of add an even more texture. Even though this die does add a lot of texture to the paper, this is just taking it up a little bit more. And I even added a little detail to the handle as well. Now we're going to move on to our sentiment. I have the new Heartfelt Hello stamp set. This also just came out in the recent release. I'm going to stamp it onto some black cardstock, but because I'm going to heat emboss, I did apply some anti-static powder, inked up the sentiment in Honeybee's clear embossing and watermark ink, dipped the sentiment into some white embossing powder, and then of course heat set with my heat tool. Then I'll grab the matching dies for that sentiment set. I love that there are matching dies for the sentiments. It's so awesome. Went ahead and die cut that sentiment out, which it looks gorgeous, so clean and professional. And now we're going to grab a piece of pattern paper for our background. This is the Pinstripes and Polka Dot outdoor paper panel here. I'm going to grab this sheet that's kind of polka dotted and kind of like a rust color, and I trimmed it down to an A2 panel, and now I'm just going to simply adhere it onto an A2 top folding white card base. I'll stick this down with my liquid adhesive, kind of hold it for a second to let that glue kind of set up, and then we'll be ready to kind of construct our bouquet. So I grabbed the base of the basket, and I'm going to start by adhering these large greenery pieces inside that basket. I'm just adding a little bit of glue to the bottom of the stem. I want to keep the tops of these flowers and leaves free of adhesive so I can kind of pop them up later away from the background so they have a little bit more dimension. And I'm just continuing here to glue those flowers and leaves just on the very bottom part of the stem into that or onto that base of the basket. And now we're ready to add some foam adhesive. Had these awesome little squares here. Added it to the backside of our top layer for our basket, removed the backing, and then stuck it down over our bouquet, and that just kind of really tidies things up. And then I'll add some liquid adhesive to the backside of just the basket and adhere it down onto my card front. Then I will finish by adhering my sentiment. I have some black foam adhesive here that I'm just going to trim and add to the kind of the tail end of the sentiment because that part hangs off of the basket. And then I have some scrap black cardstock that I'm going to, a really thin scrap that I'm going to adhere together so that it's this stacked strip. And once I had those two layers adhered together and stacked up, I will then trim that strip down to make these two little small strips that I will adhere to the backside of that foam adhesive. The whole reason why I'm adding a little bit more dimension to that foam adhesive is because we are placing this over that basket, and that basket is two layers of cardstock and foam adhesive as well. So just to kind of balance everything out, make it even, I added that double layer of cardstock to the end. And then I just added liquid adhesive and stuck it down, and that will actually complete the card. I love the way the basket looks. It has so much texture and depth, and those autumn flowers are so pretty. Love the cotton ball kind of sprig. That I thought was a really pretty addition, and I can't wait to try this with even more, with some different different color palette. Hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you have any questions about the products I use, please check out the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.